This Express Training Bites broadcast is brought to you by Promo Journal, a division of PromoCorner. Promo Journal provides fresh, daily content from industry thought leaders, blogs, videos, product features, and live content all in one convenient location. Weekly advertising opportunities are available. Contact sales at promocorner.com to get your message seen.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Express Training Bites. I hope you have are having a fantastic beginning of your week here. It is the third Tuesday of the month, and we are here with something that I think is actually going to be super useful. If it may not be like too soon, it's right now. The future is right now. And Joel Moore is with me, and you guys know him. You guys love him.
Hey, Bean, what's going on?
I'm going to let him kind of give the intro as to who he is because, you know, he is kind of my boss. I mean, technically I report directly to Lori, but Joel is the one that ultimately makes all the decisions. But for those of you who don't know who Joel Moore is, I'm going to let him go ahead. So, Joel, why don't you give the people a little heads up as to who you are?
Thanks, Brandon. So I started in the industry officially in 1996, working for my father, Jim Moore, at Bay State Specialty Company, although I've been involved in the industry all my entire life. He was always involved in the promotional products industry. So been in this business forever. Started PromoCorner in 1999, which is a digital marketing company. We do email broadcasting. Obviously, we put on webinars and do virtual trade shows and whatnot. So did that for a long time. And then in 2017 and 2018, I started a company called More Technology Solutions to help provide technology solutions to suppliers in terms of making them more efficient and whatnot. So I have been around the industry forever. I've been involved in tech forever in the industry. And then in addition to that, I also kind of understand the industry. So I've been involved in other parts of it, trade shows and customer service and everything. So I come with a well-rounded knowledge of the industry. At least I hope so.
I think you do. I mean, you've been here long enough. It's there. So we're going to put it down on paper. We are going to try to make this express today for you guys because this is a big topic and this is something that is going to and is revolutionizing the industry. And we are talking about PromoStandards. Now, we've affectionately named this PromoStandards for Dummies. That doesn't mean we're calling anybody a dummy. But I'm going to go ahead and let Joel kind of give us the objectives and the goals for what we're going to be talking about today.
Maybe PromoStandards presented by Dummies.
There it is.
So what I hope to do today is sort of just answer the 5 W's about what PromoStandards is as best I can at sort of a novice level. So this isn't for your programmer. This is more for the salespeople, for the customer service people, for the executive who's not familiar with technology, just sort of better understand what PromoStandards is. And to maybe possibly give you a launching off point to explore this further, to maybe initiate standards in your organization. What I'm not going to do is I'm not providing you a step-by-step process here to start programming and creating and initiating the services themselves. I really just want to try to make this as simple as possible. When I was first learning about it, it was complicated for me, and the more I do it, the better I learn. And even doing this today will help me better understand it myself. So.
Awesome. So, I love it.
Yeah.
So let's I've got a bunch of comments going on, guys. I've shared this to a bunch of groups. There's going to be a bunch of people watching. So we're going to kind of get into those 5 W's, like you said. Now, during this, you're going to have a bunch of questions. You're going to have a bunch of reactions or responses. Go ahead and put those over in the comment section, and we will get to those at the end. But make sure to put them up on social because somebody else may be able to answer it before Joel and I get to it at the end. So make sure if you have any questions or comments or anything, throw it over onto the side there. So let's get into it. Why build these PromoStandards?
It's a good question, right? Like, why are we even here? What is the purpose of doing this? Well, for the most part, it's going to come down to increasing your revenue and increasing your profits. I mean, two very good reasons. The PromoStandards are really designed to increase your timing and providing answers to your customers. So the standards allow you to answer customer questions instantly, especially as a distributor. So if you're looking for inventory levels or you want order status, you want to provide product information, By using PromoStandards, we are sharing information immediately. And so as a distributor, you can have that information at your hands immediately. You don't have to hang up the phone or do anything extra. And so you're reducing the amount of friction and hopefully increasing revenues by increasing your customer service. And then in terms of profit as a supplier and even as a distributor, again, it's that friction, it's that time that it takes. So as a supplier, if I don't have to take phone calls to give out inventory status or product information or provide images to distributors or any of those services that we'll talk about, I have time to do other things, to sell more, provide solutions and whatnot. And then I guess the third piece, a little bit more intrinsic, is time. So maybe you're not interested in the profit and the revenue. You just want to have more time. PromoStandards can also provide that to you because you're not bogged down in doing some of these things. You're utilizing an automated function to provide information back and forth between the industry. So that would be the reason why you would want to look further into PromoStandards.
Awesome. And this has kind of been a hot topic, right? Because this is a new thing that's coming out. I think there's a bunch of groups and companies in the promo industry that are going about this different ways, but we're specifically talking about one today.
Yeah.
So who is this for? Because there's a lot of comments right now being thrown out. Oh, this is just for large suppliers or large distributors. Who is this actually going to be for?
So just to step back, the who is, it's for distributors and it's for suppliers of promotional products. Okay, so those are the two parties. And then as a third party, it would be for service providers. Okay, so all three of these entities are going to be the people who are interested in PromoStandards. The way that sort of PromoStandards will work as we get into it is distributors are the consumers of the information. So they place a request and then the supplier will receive that request and place a response, and then the distributor consumes that information.
Okay.
A service provider can come into the fray like a DC or an Essent or Common SKU, and they can kind of bridge the gap for you. So they can both be the requester, the consumer, and just provide you the information in sort of a pretty way. So there are other options in terms of when you're looking at PromoStandards. There are certainly different ways to do it. But at the end of the day, it's distributors who will consume the information, suppliers who will provide that information, and then technically service providers who can help you bridge the gap and do both of those things.
Awesome. So basically everybody in the industry coming together
Absolutely.
to do things faster and make more money, hopefully. That's those are good things. Those are all good things. All right, as a reminder, you guys, we're going to start getting into the deep stuff now. We're going to start getting into the what and the how, right? So if you do have those questions, if you do have those comments, throw them over in the comment section and we'll make sure to get to those at the end. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, what are PromoStandards?
$1 million question. So at a high level, it's just basically an agreed upon structure of data and an agreed upon way of exchanging that data. It's as simple as that. I agree to present you this information always this way, and then I'm always going to use this service to send it to you, and then we can share information. If you think about it, I mean, we've had not a standard per se, but we've had a way of exchanging data in this industry forever. And it came down to like Google Sheets or Excel documents. So in the past, as a supplier, I may keep product information and I keep it in an Excel document and I have all different columns and I represent that data in different ways. Okay. And then you request my product data and I send you that Excel sheet as a distributor. As the distributor, you may also be interested in collecting that information all in one place. And so as a supplier, I send you my Excel sheet. I have all these different columns. You have your columns. You kind of map it together and you can put together a spreadsheet. The minute you introduce another supplier to that, well, they're going to send you their spreadsheet as well. And their spreadsheet's going to be completely different from the other suppliers and so on and so forth. And so when you look at thousands of different suppliers, it really was an efficient way as a distributor to collect that information because you're constantly trying to map things together. The beauty with PromoStandards is it's really one and done. So once you set up the standard for one distributor, you basically set up the standard for every distributor. And that's really the beauty of this. Is that you don't have to continually map different things to different services or different columns and whatnot. It's all done. And again, you do it once, and now you're ready to accept, you can trade information with thousands of different distributors. So it's really good in that way. The way that PromoStandards works, instead of an Excel or a Google Sheet, what we're doing is we're trading XML information. And so just to give you an example of what XML is, let's take a look at Google Sheet. So this is a very simple sheet. This might be something that I would trade. So I have a sheet called XML data. I have this tab of products. I have 2 columns. I have a SKU and a name, and then I have the values for that. So this would be an example of a sheet that might go back and forth. When we represent that in terms of XML, we're representing that in terms of what information in between tags, okay? So when I look at this XML, this is, again, this is super simple. It gets a little bit more complicated, but this is a high-level view. This is the same thing as this represented in XML. So I have opening and ending tags to sort of hold my information. In this example, XML data would be my sheet. I have products, which would be my tab, or if we're looking at a database, this would be a table. And then I have my rows of information in here. So I have my rows of data. So this would be first row of data here, the product. I have a label for the column, the SKU, and then the value, the label for the column name, and then the value, and then this would continue. And that's sort of how PromoStandards works. So we are taking information, and instead of doing it in an Excel document or something like that, we're putting it into an XML document, and we're transporting that information back and forth. So it's simply just a way of sharing information. And so that's what, at the basis, that's what is going back and forth. Now there's a lot more to it, but that's what's going back and forth. There's currently, PromoStandards has a number of different services that you can utilize, and each service is different, and you don't need to necessarily have all the services to get started. You can actually start with just a single service. So there's inventory, order status, shipping notification, invoice, and then media content. It gets a little bit more complicated when we get into product data, product pricing and configuration, and probably the most complicated one, and the one that kind of reverses role, where the distributor becomes more of a consumer, or the supplier becomes more of a consumer and the distributor is more of a provider, is a purchase order. But each one of these services is designed to do certain functions. So even under inventory, there might be a couple different functions that take place, and I'll show you that in a second. But that's basically what it comes down to. Is those services. And so, like I said, to start PromoStandards, you don't need to start all the services. You simply need to pick one that you think would be the best one to do. So like shipping confirmation, you could send out, or shipping notification, I should say. You could actually have this, and distributors could get into your systems and see when something shipped, have the tracking numbers. And so as a supplier now, I don't have to provide that information. As a distributor, you don't have to call me for that information. So it's super easy to just get started in one single thing. So again, let's go back to the who and the what. So for each one of these services, the distributor would initiate a request for information, and the distributor is going to provide credentials. So each supplier will store credentials for the distributor, and that'll be like a user ID and a password. They'll send this information through a protocol that's called SOAP. And you don't have to necessarily understand that, but it's a keyword for you to remember. And then that information is received by the supplier. It looks at the credentials, and then like in terms of like inventory, I might have a product SKU in there. And then I look at that information. I make sure that this is an authenticated user. I look at the SKU. I go get my inventory information, and then I send the response back to the distributor for them to use. So that's basically what PromoStandards is. Hope I didn't make that any more confusing than I have, but again, it's just that process of basically trading information, getting the information, making some determinations, and sending it back. But it's all done in an instant, and that's the key to it. It's instant, and it doesn't require any human interaction whatsoever.
And there it is. So that's why I was hoping you would get to that. That is all of this XML stuff. Is it similar to HTML, XML? Is it the same language?
Oh, it's similar in the fact that it uses tags. So HTML will use tags similar, a tagging structure similar to this, but they mean different things, and you can add different things to them. But yes, it's a similar look. But again, when you get into programming, you're not going to be writing this all out. This is going to be done through the programming that you work with. And I should say that, like, to do this, you're probably going to need somebody in the company that's familiar with technology, a developer of some kind, to help you do this. It would be hard for just an average person who's just in the office to sort of initiate this. But again, there's also the service provider end of it. So if you're interested, is you like, oh my God, this could really help me, service providers could also assist you in this process as well.
And the breakdown of the saving of the time is I think you kind of hit it at the end. There's no human interaction. This is a code that is set up once to where the distributor's software talks to the supplier's software, and because they're speaking the same language, they can speak to each other, right?
Yeah. So the key though is, so this information comes back, so you do have to do something with it. I will show you. I mean, it's as simple as you could, as a distributor, and I'll show you in a few. Place a request and get this XML data, and I mean, you can look at that and understand what it means, and I'll give you an example of that in a little bit. But it's what you do with that. So if as a distributor or a supplier with an accounting software or ERP system, you do need the ability to be able to get at that data. And so whether that's the supplier who can do an export of data, or there's a term called ODBC that allows you to actually in real time connect to the tables within your ERP system, you need to do that in order to connect to that. But I mean, that's what it is. It's the transfer of information, and it's done automated, and it doesn't require any human intervention. So
that's so cool. Well, you're going to get into a little bit more of the how it kind of works. I mean, it's hard to separate the what and the how because they're so integral with each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, how does it work? And so you've explained like what it is and how those will how it takes that Excel spreadsheet and turns it into something that we don't have to interact. But how does it actually do that?
Yeah. So what PromoStandards relies on is it's a web service. So it's just waiting there. The supplier's web service is just waiting there for a request. It's not like a website. It's a service that's waiting for someone to ask it to do something. Okay. And the overall PromoStandards relies on a file that's called the WSDL file, which it stands for Web Services Description Language. And again, this gets into a little bit to the weeds. But what the WSDL file basically states is it basically tells you how to create your Google Sheet or your Excel document. It's very specific about what the columns are basically and what the information is that's contained in those and how that information looks. Okay, so again, it's not a Google Sheet, but it's that file can basically it dictates everything that can go back and forth in the services that you use. If you're looking for a programmer to do this, like I use a Visual Studio from Microsoft, which is a very popular tool, they actually have a built-in tool that I can point to that WSDL file, and it'll create sort of the outline of everything that I need. So it'll create my whole service for me, at least the outline of it. Again, it'll give me the outline. I need to then populate that information, obviously, through my own ERP system. So there is a level. It's not going to create it and just I'll be ready to go, but it will create the main service, and it'll make sure that everything that you're providing is the data, and it is in the structure and the values that everyone's looking for, so that there is no confusion in terms of, I'm going to send you one thing and you're expecting another.
Yeah.
So that's basically how that works. The information itself is transferred through a protocol called SOAP. And so the SOAP is basically, if you were on a website and you're on a contact form, it's not SOAP, but you put your information in, you hit submit, and that information either gets sent to an email or gets entered into a database. That's kind of what SOAP is. It's not specifically SOAP, but that's what SOAP is. You're clicking a button and it's taking the information that you provided as a distributor request, and it's transferring that information through the internet to the service. The service receives that and then uses SOAP to transfer that response back to the requester. So that's kind of how it works. Again, if you're looking for keywords here, if you're going to be talking to a developer or whatnot, you want someone who's familiar with with web services, someone who's familiar with a WSDL file, and someone who's probably familiar with SOAP as well. So that's basically how this process works. And let's take a look. So I think the best way to sort of understand this is to kind of see an example of this. So PromoStandards.org is the organization that has really led this charge, obviously. They didn't lead it, they created the charge, I should say. So they have a number of tools and resources available on their website. They have sort of a pretty website at www.promostandards.org, and then they have some tools and some real, if you really want to dig into this, at tools.promostandards.org, and then you can start to really get into the nitty-gritty. But let's take a look at this and see what something would look like. So I have up in here, and let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Here we go. So this is their tool. It's called the Web Service Validator. And if you go to the tools.promostandards.org, anyone can start to try and play around with this if they want. They simply need to get some credentials and find a supplier and get credentials to that supplier, and they can start looking at these tools. But this is their service validation, and it's a way to sort of test your endpoints. So if you come in here, you'll see the endpoint validation down here under the standards, and then you have any number of different things that you can play with. I'm going to show you inventory today. So this is the service inventory. There are different versionings of that service. This is 2.0. And then there's a couple different operations within each of the services. This is actually give me inventory levels. And then we have an endpoint. And so this is the endpoint is basically the supplier. And for each service that the supplier has, they will have a different endpoint. So this is base date service. This is for inventory. And so this is the endpoint. Again, this service is not a website. You don't go there and look at stuff. It's waiting to receive a request from a client. So in here, we have the what looks like a request that would be placed. And we have, this is again, XML. As you can see, it has the different tags. We have an ID and we have a password. These are just for this demo call. And then I have a product ID that we're going to look at inventory. So again, I'm out on the internet. I'm on promostandards.org. This is communicate with base dates data to bring me back inventory levels for this particular product. I just click validate and boom. So just like that, I didn't have to pick up a phone call. I didn't have to call anyone. As a supplier, I didn't have to pick up the phone. I didn't have to go ask somebody or look in a system and spend 10 minutes trying to figure out this information. This information was returned to me instantly. And so again, the response comes back in HTML. Would you want to make it look prettier? Probably, and the developers will help you do that. But at the very bare bones, the information is all right here. And so as we look at it, we can see I have my part number, the colors that it comes in. I have the quantity available. I see that I don't have any currently available. I have some other information that's in here. Is it a manufactured item? Like, is it a calendar? Is you just going to manufacture that calendar to order and whatnot? And then I also can see inventory locations as well. So as a supplier, I will tell you where the inventory exists. I mean, especially if you're an apparel distributor, I mean, what a great tool for you to have to know where in the world, where in the United States that inventory exists, so that you know where you can get it from. And then you can even take it as far out as giving you future availability. So while we can't give you an exact date, we actually let you know that we have 21,000 on order and they're going to be here. So now you know that, well, I'll tell my customer that the inventory is not in, but it'll be in here soon. So, but as a distributor, literally, when I program this all in, I click a button, I have all that information at my fingertips. In fact, I believe if you go, like, if you're using Distributor Central services to source products and look up products, anyone that they're associated with that has Promo Standards, and they'll have an inventory button, and you click on the inventory button, and they're using Promo Standards to go get that inventory and bring it back to you. So, I mean, there is just no better way to get information as quickly as possible. And then you look at this and you go, well, this is just inventory. I can do order status. I can see where my order is, what's happening to it. If there's an issue with that order, it'll tell me that there's an issue and that I need to do something. I have the order shipment notifications. So again, as a distributor, I could have all my orders. I could look daily. The supplier did my order ship, get the tracking info, product data, media content. So if I wanted to create my own website using supplier's information, again, I could use this standard to basically create an entire website, from populating it with supplier product data, providing inventory updates, creating a purchase order and sending it to the supplier, getting the order status on that, and also providing the final shipping acknowledgement that it's gone out, and finally give you an invoice. So technically, the sky is the limit when we look at PromoStandards, because at some point you could use all these services as a single tool to do everything in your organization as a distributor, and as a supplier be able to do that efficiently without having to have a lot of legwork and time involved in doing that. Because again, when we set up the standard for the one distributor, we set up the standard for every distributor. And that, again, is the beauty of this. So I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in it, check out these websites and find out more information on those and start to explore it. Certainly ask questions. John Norris has been a huge player in this and has done a lot of work to really roll this out. I will say that PromoStandards is a nonprofit organization. Their only motivation is each of their individual companies, because they want to see these efficiencies. So while they work on this for free of charge, and they brought us to us free of charge, their motivation is obviously revenue and profit and time. So check them out and definitely get involved. PromoStandards is also doing webinars. I think at least every other month they do webinars open to everyone, and then every other month they do webinars for people that belong to the PromoStandards organization, and that is a separate thing. You have to belong to it. And they're also going to be, I don't want to fail to mention, in October they're doing a hackathon, and those are a great resource. So if you do have that technology person in your organization that you want to say, hey, you need to go learn more about this, October would be a good time for them to go and be able to be with a lot of other tech people that have done this and understand it, and it helps them understand it and how to initiate it in their own organization. So all good ways to sort of get involved. In terms of standards, I do want to state that there are standards out there. There are other standards. I guess PPAI, it sounds like PPA and SAGE are going to be working on a standard. Ultimately, standards are a good thing. So while it would be nice if there's just one, but if there's two, that's still, we can work with that. We'll see how that goes. It's not completely done, and I don't think it's completely out there yet, but there is more work being done on standards. So we'll see how that goes. But again, just a super easy way to, once it's done, exchange information and have it at your fingertips instantly.
Well, this has been huge and eye-opening for me. I mean, truth be told, we've done this walkthrough and then watching this again today. When I first saw PromoStandards, I think I'm like 90% of the people out there. When I saw it, I was like, oh, they're going to set a certain way that we have to do business. That's not what they mean by the PromoStandards. It's a certain way that we're going to be able to communicate with each other automatically. Yeah. Where we can have a programmer as a distributor set up something to make it look pretty on my website for my customers or for my service, my customer service people, and pretty on the supplier side so that their customer service people can easily handle it and access all that information as well.
Again, I think the best way to describe it is just it's we're all going to keep, if you just look at product, we're all going to keep our product data in these columns. Right?
Exactly.
We're not going to change it. So when I send you it and they send you it, everyone gets it. It's always going to look exactly the same. I mean, one other thing just before I stop here too.
Yeah.
Anyone who just wants to sort of like, hey, I love technology. I want to get involved in this. I want to go try this out. You can go to the tools.promostandards website. You can go down to endpoints here, and you will see all the different companies and the different services that they're offering. So you could pick a company that you do a lot of business with, and let's say that is Bay State. You can just type in here and then you can see all these services. So if you just really wanted to try this out and see how it works for you, you could come in here. You don't need to log in or do anything. And you'll see these little key over here. Okay, so this is, let's find my inventory 2.0. When I click this little key here, I can request credentials from Baystate. Okay, so you can actually fill in all this information and then send it and then wait for your response. You'll get credentials. And then once you get those credentials, you could come back here to the endpoint validation and actually play around with that service using your credentials and using that supplier's endpoint for that specific service, and actually try it for yourself and just kind of see it. And I think doing a lot of times helps you understand it. Once you see it happen and come back and forth, you're like, oh, wait a second. Now, and the ideas start flowing and you start to understand. So.
Well, hopefully that answers Lori's question. That's the easiest way to get started right now, is as we are turning this up, as more suppliers and distributors are grabbing onto this promo standard and making it a thing. These are the amazing places that you can go and actually try this stuff out as they're building it. And guys,
I should get it. I don't have it, but the PromoStandards YouTube page, I believe they have a lot of content already that they've done. I mean, they're constantly doing webinars, so you can go back and see a lot of webinars and do some learning that way too, and just understand it. And it does take a while. Again, this isn't a simple thing. There's some complication to it, but eventually it just clicks, and then you're like, oh my God, all these things I can do. So definitely look for the YouTube page. And you go back and look at that, get involved in PromoStandards, just try to understand it better.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Joel, thank you so much, man, for taking time out of your day and explaining this to us. Again, you guys, if you want to learn more, follow or go over to promostandards.org. They're all over YouTube as well. They've got webinars all the time. Go back and watch this video. We tried to do a really good job of breaking it up with the we tried with the banners there, so you can fast forward and go back to the places and get those answers. Joel, thanks, man. That was a lot of fun.
Love to do it.
So we got a couple of comments here. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this. And yeah, we will see you again on the first Tuesday coming up in June. Gross. It's already June. That is ridiculous.
Don't live in the Northeast.
Jeez. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.